The sky was turning a deep orange as Maya Johnson's private jet touched down at the airport. After a 14-hour flight from Singapore, all she wanted was a hot shower and a comfortable bed. Maya checked her watch, 8:45 p.m. Still enough time to review her notes before tomorrow's tech summit, where she would be the keynote speaker. "Ms. Johnson, your car is waiting," her assistant Theo said, handing her a tablet with the evening schedule. "I've confirmed your reservation at the Chandler. The presidential suite is prepared as requested." Maya nodded, sliding her glasses back up the bridge of her nose. At 42, she had built Horizon Innovations from a small startup in her garage to a tech empire valued at over $11 billion. The journey hadn't been easy. As a woman in tech, doors weren't always open. As a black woman in tech, sometimes those doors were slammed in her face. But Maya had learned to turn obstacles into opportunities. Each rejection became fuel for her ambition. Each doubt became a challenge to overcome. Now, as one of the few black female billionaires in the world, she had earned her place at the table. The sleek black SUV pulled up to the Chandler Hotel, its limestone facade glowing under tasteful lighting. Doormen rushed to greet the vehicle, but their practiced smiles faltered slightly when Maya stepped out. She was used to that momentary recalibration, that split second when people realized who she was. Not the image they expected, but the reality of success they couldn't deny. "Welcome to the Chandler, ma'am." One doorman recovered quickly, directing the bellhop to handle her minimal luggage. The lobby was a masterpiece of modern luxury. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and the subtle scent of jasmine in the air. Maya had stayed at the Chandler many times over the years, watching it transform from a respected old establishment to the premier luxury hotel in the city. Tonight the lobby was bustling with guests arriving for the same tech summit that had brought Maya to town. She approached the front desk, where a man in his late 30s with perfectly styled hair was checking in another guest. His gold name tag read, "Philip Collins, Front Desk Manager." Maya waited patiently, scrolling through emails on her phone. After finishing with the other guest, Philip looked up with a professional smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "How may I help you this evening?" he asked, his gaze already drifting past her to the next person in line. "Good evening. I have a reservation under Johnson. Maya Johnson. The presidential suite for 5 nights, she said, sliding her ID and platinum credit card across the marble counter. Philip barely glanced at her ID before tapping at his computer. His fingers paused and he frowned slightly. "I'm not seeing a reservation under that name," he said, his tone suggesting this was clearly her mistake. Maya remained calm. "That's unusual. My assistant confirmed it just this afternoon. Perhaps check under Horizon Innovations? The reservation was made 2 months ago." Philip tapped a few more keys, his frown deepening. "I'm afraid there's nothing under that name either. And unfortunately, we're completely booked for the tech summit. There are no rooms available." Maya glanced around the lobby. 2 other front desk agents were checking in guests without issue. She pulled out her phone and opened her email. "I have the confirmation right here," she said, turning the screen toward Philip. "Reservation, CHN 7842, confirmed by your staff member Diane. Presidential suite 5 nights. Philip barely looked at the screen. There must have been a system error. The confirmation was sent in error. "As I said, we have no rooms available. Perhaps you could try the Westfield down the street. I believe they might have availability." As he spoke, a white couple approached the desk next to them. The other desk agent greeted them warmly, checking in. "Name, please?" "Henderson," the man replied. "Ah yes, Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, welcome to the Chandler. I see you're with us for 3 nights. We've upgraded you to a junior suite on the 12th floor with a city view." Maya turned back to Philip, whose expression remained impassive. She'd been in this situation before. Maybe not at this exact hotel, but the scenario was familiar. Years ago, she might have reacted differently, raised her voice, demanded to speak to a manager, made a scene. But experience had taught her that such reactions only reinforced certain stereotypes. Instead, she took a deep breath and tried one more time. "Mr. Collins, I understand you're busy tonight, but this is a significant inconvenience. I'm speaking at the Tech Summit tomorrow morning, and I specifically chose this hotel for its proximity to the convention center. Could you please check again? Perhaps under my company name?" Philip's smile tightened. As I've explained twice now, there is no reservation and no available rooms. The hotel is fully booked. Now, if you'll excuse me, there are other guests waiting. From the corner of her eye, Maya noticed a hotel security guard glance in her direction. She felt a familiar tightness in her chest. The feeling she'd had so many times before in her life when she was being dismissed, not for what she said or did, but for who she was. The woman behind Maya in line shifted uncomfortably. "Excuse me," she said to Philip, "but I just overheard you upgrade those people to a junior suite. Doesn't that mean their original room is now available?" Philip's face flushed slightly. "That's a different situation. Those rooms are reserved for loyalty program members." Maya could have mentioned that she was, in fact, a platinum-level member of the Chandler's loyalty program. She could have mentioned that she had stayed at this very hotel at least 20 times over the past 5 years. She could have pulled up the app on her phone showing her status. Instead, she simply nodded and slid her ID and credit card back into her purse. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Collins," she said, her voice steady despite the anger and disappointment churning inside her. "I'll find accommodations elsewhere." As she turned to leave, she noticed a small group of people by the bar staring in her direction. One woman leaned over to whisper something to her companion. Maya recognized her as the CEO of a rival tech company, someone who would be in the audience for her keynote address tomorrow. Maya straightened her shoulders and walked confidently toward the exit. As she waited for the valet to bring her car back around, she discreetly took out her phone and recorded a brief video documenting what had just happened. Speaking quietly into the camera, Thursday, 9:15 p.m. Refused accommodation at the Chandler despite confirmed reservation. CHN 7842. Front desk manager. Philip Collins claimed no record of reservation and no available rooms while simultaneously checking in other guests. Notes for later. She slipped the phone back into her pocket as her driver pulled up. Getting into the back seat, she directed him to the Westfield Hotel across the street. "Change of plans, Theo," she said, calling her assistant. "The Chandler seems to have lost our reservation. I'm heading to the Westfield. Can you call ahead and secure their best available room?" While Theo made the arrangements, Maya gazed out at the Chandler through the car window. The Grand Hotel stood there, oblivious to the small act of discrimination that had just taken place within its walls. How many others had experienced similar treatment? How many had walked away feeling diminished, their dignity wounded? The Westfield welcomed her without question, the manager himself coming to greet her when he heard who had just arrived at his hotel. Within 20 minutes, Maya was settling into a spacious corner suite. Not as luxurious as what she had expected at the Chandler, but comfortable nonetheless. As she unpacked her laptop, a plan began forming in her mind. This wasn't the first time she had faced such treatment, but perhaps she could ensure it would be among the last, not just for herself, but for others as well. Maya pulled up the financial reports on the Chandler Hotel Group that her team had compiled months ago when they were researching potential real estate investments. The hotel chain had been struggling lately, their stock price dropping steadily over the past year. Their flagship property, the very hotel that had just turned her away, was their most valuable asset. A slow smile spread across Maya's face as she reached for her phone. "Theo, I need you to set up a meeting with our legal team and financial advisors first thing in the morning, before the summit, and pull everything we have on the Chandler Hotel Group. I think we just found our next project." She settled back against the pillows, a sense of calm determination replacing her earlier frustration. What had happened tonight was unacceptable, but Maya Johnson had long ago learned not to waste energy on anger. Instead, she would channel it into action, the kind of action that would shock everyone, especially a certain front desk manager who had no idea who he had just turned away. Maya woke before her alarm, the events of the previous night still fresh in her mind. The digital clock on the nightstand read 5:17, and she had always been an early riser, a habit formed during the years when she worked 3 jobs while building her first app in whatever spare moments she could find. She pulled on her running shoes and workout clothes, then headed down to the Westfield's gym. Exercise had always been her way of sorting through complex problems, and today's problem was particularly interesting. By the time she finished her 5-mile run on the treadmill, the outlines of a plan had taken shape in her mind. Back in her suite, showered and dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit, Maya sat at the desk with a cup of green tea. She opened her laptop and pulled up the research she'd reviewed last night. The Chandler Hotel Group was publicly traded but family-controlled, with the third-generation owner, Richard Chandler, still serving as CEO. The company had expanded too quickly in recent years, taking on significant debt to renovate their properties and open new locations. Their latest quarterly report showed declining occupancy rates across their portfolio, with only their flagship property, the hotel that had turned Maya away, maintaining strong numbers. Their stock had fallen nearly 30% over the past year. They were vulnerable. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Theo, confirming that her legal and financial teams would meet her in the Westfields Business Center in 30 minutes. She gathered her notes and headed downstairs, her mind already running through various scenarios and strategies. "Good morning, Ms. Johnson," said Denise Wu, her chief legal counsel, as Maya entered the conference room. Beside her sat Victor Chen, head of Maya's investment division, and Layla Patel, her chief financial officer. All three had been with Maya since the early days of Horizon Innovations. They were more than employees, they were her trusted inner circle. "Thank you all for meeting on such short notice," Maya said, taking a seat at the head of the table. "I had an interesting experience last night that I believe presents a unique opportunity." She played the video she had recorded outside the Chandler, then laid out the facts of what had happened. None of her team members seemed particularly surprised. They had all witnessed similar treatment over the years, both with Maya and in their own lives. "So," Victor said, leaning forward, "you want to buy the hotel that refused you a room? That's a bit dramatic, isn't it?" Maya smiled. "Not just the hotel. The entire group." Layla raised an eyebrow. "The whole Chandler Hotel Group? That's a multi-billion-dollar acquisition. And potentially a very profitable one," Maya countered. "Victor, your team evaluated them as a possible investment target 6 months ago. You told me they were undervalued but too messy to consider at that time." Victor nodded. "Their fundamentals are solid, but their management is stuck in the past. They're sitting on prime real estate in 12 major cities, but they're not maximizing revenue. Their technology is outdated, their marketing is stale, and their corporate culture." He glanced at Maya. "Well, let's just say what happened to you last night probably wasn't an isolated incident." "Exactly," Maya said. "And that's why this isn't just about revenge for one bad night. It's about seeing an opportunity where others don't. We can turn this company around, make it profitable, and in the process create a model for truly inclusive luxury hospitality." Denise, always the pragmatist, tapped her pen against her legal pad. "What's your timeline? A hostile takeover could take months, even years." "I don't want a hostile takeover," Maya replied. "I want to approach this quietly. Richard Chandler is old school. He won't want to sell to me if he knows who I am or what my intentions are." "So you're suggesting a stealth acquisition?" Layla asked. Maya nodded. "I want to create a shell company to handle the negotiations. We'll make an offer that's generous enough to be tempting, but still represents good value for us. Victor, can your team put together a proposal by the end of the week?" "Absolutely," Victor said. "We already have most of the analysis done from our previous evaluation. Denise, I need you to set up the shell company and make sure everything is legally sound. I don't want any loopholes that could come back to haunt us later." "I'm on it," Denise said, already making notes. "And Layla, will need to move some funds around to have cash ready for the initial offer. Let's start with a proposal of $1.2 billion for the entire group." Layla whistled softly. "That's generous. Their market cap is barely $1 billion right now. It needs to be generous enough that they can't easily refuse," Maya explained, "but also structured in a way that protects us if we uncover any hidden problems during due diligence." The meeting continued for another hour as they refined the plan. By the time Maya left for her keynote address at the Tech Summit, the wheels were already in motion. The irony wasn't lost on her as she walked past the Chandler Hotel on her way to the convention center. Inside that building, Philip Collins was probably going about his day, completely unaware that his actions last night had set in motion events that would transform his workplace forever. Maya's keynote was a triumph. She spoke about the future of technology and the importance of diverse perspectives in innovation, without mentioning the previous night's incident. She wove in subtle references to the barriers that still existed for people of color in spaces designed for the privileged. "True innovation," she told the packed audience, "comes when we reimagine not just our technology, but our entire approach to who belongs in the rooms where decisions are made. The crowd gave her a standing ovation. As Maya stepped off the stage, she noticed the CEO who had witnessed her rejection at the Chandler approaching. "Powerful speech," the woman said, extending her hand. "I particularly appreciated your points about belonging. I couldn't help but notice what happened at the Chandler last night." Maya shook her hand. "Thank you. Unfortunately, such experiences are still all too common." "It was appalling," the woman said, lowering her voice. "I've already checked out and moved to the Westfield, and I've instructed my company to cancel all future bookings with the Chandler Group." "I appreciate the solidarity," Maya said sincerely. "But you know, sometimes the most effective change comes not from walking away, but from walking in and transforming the space itself." The woman looked intrigued, but Maya simply smiled and excused herself. She had more meetings to attend and a hotel chain to acquire. Over the next few weeks, Maya juggled her responsibilities at Horizon Innovations with her new secret project. The shell company, Landmark Hospitality Ventures, made initial contact with Richard Chandler's representatives, expressing interest in acquiring the hotel group. As Maya had predicted, the generous offer caught their attention. The Chandler Group was struggling with debt payments, and Richard was nearing retirement age with no clear succession plan. The timing was perfect. To maintain the secrecy of her involvement, Maya stayed away from the negotiations, letting Victor and her legal team handle the discussions. 3 weeks after the initial offer, they were granted access to the company's books for due diligence. "It's worse than we thought," Victor reported during a late-night call. "They've been hiding declining revenue with creative accounting. Their occupancy rates have fallen across the board, and they're having trouble meeting their debt obligations." "Perfect," Maya said. "Revise the offer to $1.05 billion, citing the financial discrepancies." "That's still generous given what you found." "They'll take it," Victor said confidently. "Richard Chandler seems eager to wash his hands of the whole business. He's already talking about his retirement villa in France. And he has no idea who's behind Landmark?" "None. We've been very careful. The attorneys representing us are from a firm we've never used before, and all the paperwork leads to offshore entities that can't be traced back to you or Horizon." Maya smiled as she ended the call. In just a few months, if all went according to plan, she would own the very hotel that had turned her away. But this wasn't about petty revenge. It was about something much bigger, creating systemic change from within. That night, Maya sat on the balcony of her penthouse looking out at the city lights. She thought about her parents, both gone now, who had worked multiple jobs to give her opportunities they never had. She thought about all the times doors had been closed to her because of her skin color or her gender. And she thought about how, instead of trying to break those doors down, she had built her own doors, and now she was buying the entire building. The next morning, her phone rang with news from Victor. The Chandler Hotel Group had accepted their revised offer. The purchase agreement would be ready to sign within days. Maya Johnson, the woman who had been refused a room, was about to become the owner of one of the most prestigious hotel chains in the country. And Philip Collins had no idea what was coming. The ink was barely dry on the purchase agreement when Maya called an emergency meeting with her core team. They gathered in the private dining room of her favorite restaurant, away from curious eyes and ears. A bottle of champagne sat unopened in the center of the table. "I don't want to celebrate yet," Maya said, settling into her chair. "We've acquired the company, but the real work is just beginning." Victor slid a folder across the table. "The final numbers. We got the entire Chandler Hotel Group for $1.05 billion, 12 properties in total, with the flagship being the jewel in the crown. And worth every penny," Layla added. "Even with their declining occupancy, the real estate alone is valued at more than we paid. Once we implement your vision, Maya, the return on investment will be substantial." Maya nodded, but her mind was already racing ahead to the next phase. "What's the status of the current management team?" "As expected, Richard Chandler is out. The retirement package we offered was too generous to refuse," Denise explained. "Most of the executive team has golden parachutes that kick in with a change of ownership. We anticipate most will take the money and go." "Good," Maya said. "That gives us a clean slate to work with. Now here's where things get interesting." She opened her laptop and pulled up a presentation. "I've been developing a new approach to luxury hospitality, one that's truly inclusive." For the next hour, Maya outlined her vision. It wasn't just about changing who worked at the hotels or who felt welcome staying in them. It was about reimagining the entire concept of luxury service. The old model of luxury was about exclusivity, keeping certain people out, she explained. My vision is about exceptional experiences that are accessible to all who can afford them, regardless of what they look like or where they come from. Her team listened intently as she detailed her plans for staff training, community engagement, and technological upgrades. She wanted to retain most of the current employees but completely transform the corporate culture. "And what about our friend Philip Collins?" Victor asked with a slight smile. Maya leaned back in her chair. "Ah, yes, the front desk manager who turned me away. He stays, at least for now. In fact, I have special plans for Mr. Collins." Theo, who had been quietly taking notes, looked up. "You're not going to fire him immediately?"
After what he did?
"No," Maya said firmly. "This isn't about personal revenge. If I fire him, he'll just go work somewhere else and continue the same behaviors. I want to change the system, not just punish one person." She pulled up an image on her laptop, a detailed timeline for the transition. "For the next 3 months, we operate as Landmark Hospitality. No one outside this room knows that I'm the new owner. We observe, we learn, and we plan. Then in Phase 2, we begin implementing changes still under the Landmark name." "And when do you reveal yourself as the owner?" Layla asked. Maya smiled. "At exactly the right moment." The next day, Maya walked into the Chandler Hotel, not as a guest, but as the anonymous representative of the new ownership group. She wore a different suit than her usual style, glasses she didn't need, and her hair pulled back in a severe bun. Few people would connect this corporate consultant with the tech CEO whose face occasionally appeared in business magazines. The hotel manager, a nervous man named Howard, showed her around. "As you can see, we maintain the highest standards of luxury," he said, gesturing to the opulent lobby where Maya had been turned away months earlier. "Very impressive," Maya murmured, making notes on her tablet. "And your occupancy rates?" Howard hesitated. "They've been challenging recently, but the flagship has maintained better numbers than our other properties." "I see. And your staff turnover?" "Higher than we'd like," he admitted, "especially in housekeeping and food service." Maya nodded, continuing to take notes. "I'd like to observe your front desk operations for a while, if you don't mind. Just pretend I'm not here." Howard looked uncomfortable but agreed. Maya settled into a discreet corner of the lobby with a clear view of the front desk. It didn't take long for Philip Collins to arrive for his shift, straightening his tie as he took his position. Maya watched him carefully over the next few hours. She noticed how his demeanor subtly changed depending on who approached the desk. The wealthy-looking white couple received his warmest welcome. The middle-aged Asian business travelers got professional courtesy. The young black family with children was treated with barely concealed impatience. It wasn't always obvious. A slightly cooler tone here. A bit less attention to detail there, but the pattern was clear to anyone looking for it. And Maya was definitely looking. Over the next few weeks, she visited all 12 properties in the Chandler Group, always in her disguise as a corporate consultant. She spoke with staff at every level, from housekeepers to executives. She stayed as a guest, testing the service firsthand. And everywhere she went, she took meticulous notes. The picture that emerged was troubling but not surprising. The Chandler brand had cultivated an atmosphere of exclusivity that often crossed the line into discrimination. It wasn't just about race, though that was certainly a factor. It was about a narrow definition of who belonged in luxury spaces. Back in her office at Horizon Innovations, Maya compiled her findings into a comprehensive report. "The good news," she told her team, "is that most of the staff genuinely want to provide excellent service. They've just been trained in an outdated model of what that means." "And the bad news?" Theo asked. "The corporate culture is toxic from the top down. The training is inadequate. The technology is ancient, and there's no accountability for discriminatory behavior." "So we clean house?" Victor suggested. Maya shook her head. "No, we transform the house. I want to keep as many of the current employees as possible, but completely retrain them. Those who can't adapt to the new culture will leave on their own." She pulled up a new presentation on the large screen in her office. "I've been working with some of the best minds in hospitality, diversity training, and customer experience. Together, we've developed a comprehensive program that we're calling Inclusive Luxury. The program would start with intensive training for all managers, followed by a complete overhaul of hiring practices, customer service protocols, and even the physical spaces of the hotels themselves. "We're not just changing the Chandler," Maya explained. "We're creating a new standard for the entire industry." As her team reviewed the materials, Denise raised a practical concern. "This is going to be expensive, Maya. The training alone will cost millions, not to mention the renovations and technology upgrades." "It's an investment," Maya replied confidently. "One that will pay off not just financially, but in creating real change. And speaking of investments, it's time for Phase 2. Phase 2 began with a memo to all Chandler employees from Landmark Hospitality, announcing significant changes coming to the hotel group. New training programs were introduced, renovation plans were unveiled, and most surprisingly to the staff, customer service protocols were completely revamped. "We are redefining luxury for the modern era," the memo stated. "True luxury is not about exclusivity, but about exceptional experiences for all our guests." The reactions were mixed. Some employees embraced the changes enthusiastically. Others grumbled about political correctness and lowering standards. A few quit outright. But most adapted, especially when they saw that the new owners were investing heavily in staff development and improved working conditions. Philip Collins fell somewhere in the middle. He didn't quit, but he made little effort to hide his skepticism about the new direction. In staff meetings, he often questioned the changes, arguing that the traditional approach had served the Chandler well for decades. Maya, still in her disguise as a corporate consultant, observed these reactions carefully. She had instructed the interim management team to note which employees embraced the new vision and which resisted. This information would be valuable when it came time for Phase 3. 3 months into the transition, Maya called another meeting with her core team. "The groundwork has been laid," she said. "The new training programs are in place. The renovation plans are approved. The technology upgrades are underway. Now it's time for the final phase." "The big reveal?" Victor asked with a smile. Maya nodded. "Yes, next week all Chandler properties will close for a 3-day staff retreat. Every employee from housekeepers to executives will attend. That's when I'll introduce myself as the new owner and present the complete vision for the future of the company." "And Philip Collins?" Theo asked. Maya smiled. "Mr. Collins has been specifically assigned to the retreat at the flagship property. I think it's time he and I had a proper introduction." As she looked out the window at the city skyline, Maya felt a sense of anticipation. This wasn't about revenge. It was about creating something new and important. The hospitality industry had long been a place where subtle discrimination flourished under the guise of exclusivity. She was about to change that, starting with the very hotel that had once turned her away. "Send the notices," she told Theo. "All staff are required to attend, no exceptions." The stage was set for a revelation that would shock everyone, especially a certain front desk manager, who had no idea who was really behind the changes. Transforming his workplace, the grand ballroom of the Chandler Hotel buzzed with nervous energy as employees from all departments gathered for the mandatory staff retreat. Circular tables filled the room, each carefully arranged to mix people from different areas and levels of the organization. At the front, a stage had been set up with a podium and large screens on either side. Philip Collins adjusted his tie as he found his assigned seat. He'd been with the Chandler for nearly 15 years and had survived several ownership changes, but this Landmark Hospitality Group was unlike any previous owners. The past 3 months had brought more changes than the previous decade. New training programs, renovation plans, updated technology, and a completely revised approach to customer service that he found frankly baffling. "Good morning, everyone," called a voice from the stage. It was Howard, the hotel manager, looking unusually cheerful despite the uncertainty hanging over all their heads. "Welcome to the first annual Chandler Group Staff Summit. Today marks the beginning of an exciting new chapter for our company." Philip exchanged skeptical glances with a few colleagues at his table. The corporate consultant who had been lurking around for months, a stern woman with severe glasses who seemed to be taking notes on everything, sat at a table near the front, tablet in hand as usual. Howard continued with his welcome speech, talking about inclusive luxury and reimagining hospitality and other phrases that sounded to Philip like empty corporate jargon. He tried to look interested while mentally calculating how many more years he needed to work before retirement. "And now," Howard said, his voice taking on a more formal tone, "it is my great honor to introduce the new CEO of Landmark Hospitality and the owner of the Chandler Hotel Group." The lights dimmed slightly, and a video began playing on the screens. It showed beautiful footage of all 12 Chandler properties, interspersed with scenes of diverse guests being welcomed and enjoying their stays. The music swelled as the video shifted to show the future vision, renderings of renovated spaces, new technology interfaces, and staff engaging with guests in ways that somehow looked both more casual and more attentive than the current formal approach. As the video ended, a spotlight illuminated the side of the stage, and a woman walked confidently to the podium. Philip's jaw dropped. The corporate consultant had removed her severe glasses and transformed her appearance, but that wasn't what shocked him. He recognized her immediately as the woman he had turned away from the hotel 6 months ago, the one who had claimed to have a reservation that he couldn't find. "Good morning," she said with a warm smile that somehow made Philip's stomach clench with dread. "My name is Maya Johnson. I'm the founder and CEO of Horizon Innovations, and as of 3 months ago, I'm also the owner of the Chandler Hotel Group." A murmur rippled through the ballroom. Everyone there knew who Maya Johnson was, one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in the world and one of the few black female billionaires. What was she doing buying a hotel chain? "Some of you may be wondering why a tech CEO would acquire a hospitality company," Maya continued as if reading their thoughts. "The answer is simple. I believe in the power of spaces to either welcome or exclude, to either reinforce inequality or help dismantle it." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. 6 months ago, I arrived at this very hotel with a confirmed reservation. I was turned away at the front desk while other guests were being checked in. It wasn't the first time I'd experienced such treatment, but it made me think about how many others face similar situations every day. Philip felt the blood drain from his face as several heads turned in his direction. He had no idea that the woman he'd dismissed so casually was someone of such importance. Worse, he now realized she must have been testing the hotel during her visits as the consultant, observing how staff treated different types of guests. Had she seen how he sometimes rushed through check-ins with certain people? Or how he saved the best rooms for guests who looked a certain way? "But this isn't a story about one bad experience," Maya continued. "And it's certainly not about singling out any individual employee. This is about recognizing a systemic problem and addressing it at its roots." Philip exhaled slightly, feeling a moment of relief. "For the past 3 months, I've been observing operations at all 12 Chandler properties. I've spoken with staff at every level, stayed as a guest, and reviewed policies and procedures. What I found was an organization with tremendous potential, held back by outdated ideas about what luxury means and who deserves to experience it." She clicked a remote, and new images appeared on the screens. Data visualizations showing guest satisfaction rates broken down by demographics, staff turnover rates by department, and occupancy trends over time. "The data tells a clear story," Maya explained. "When guests don't feel genuinely welcomed, they don't return. When staff don't feel valued, they leave. And when a luxury brand becomes known for exclusivity rather than exceptional service, it eventually loses relevance." For the next 30 minutes, Maya outlined her vision for transforming the Chandler Group. The new approach would focus on personalized service for all guests, regardless of appearance or background. Staff would receive comprehensive training in cultural awareness and unconscious bias. Technology would be upgraded to enhance the guest experience while making employees' jobs easier. And perhaps most surprisingly, a portion of profits would fund scholarships and training programs for young people from underrepresented groups interested in hospitality careers. True luxury in the 21st century isn't about keeping people out, Maya said passionately. It's about creating exceptional experiences that respect the dignity of both guests and staff. It's about setting a new standard that the rest of the industry will eventually have to follow. As she spoke, Philip found himself reluctantly impressed. Despite his initial skepticism, her vision made business sense. The industry was changing, and the old model of stuffy, exclusive luxury was increasingly out of touch with younger travelers with money to spend. "Now," Maya said, her tone shifting slightly, "I want to address something important. I know that change can be difficult, especially for those who have been successful under the old system. Some of you may be wondering if you still have a place here. The room grew very quiet. Philip felt a bead of sweat roll down his back. My answer is yes, if you're willing to grow. Everyone in this room will receive the training and support needed to thrive in our new approach. Those who embrace this vision will find opportunities for advancement that weren't possible before. Those who cannot or will not adapt, she paused. Well, the hospitality industry is large, and there are plenty of hotels still operating under the old model. The message was clear: get on board or find another job. Over the next 2 days, you'll participate in workshops and training sessions that will give you a taste of our new direction. You'll meet the experts who will guide our transformation, and you'll have the opportunity to ask questions and share your own ideas. Maya stepped away from the podium and moved to the center of the stage. But before we begin those sessions, I want to speak directly to the person who turned me away 6 months ago. Philip froze in his seat as Maya's gaze found him in the crowd. I want to thank you, she said, surprising everyone. If you had given me a room that night, I might never have seen the opportunity to create meaningful change in this industry. Your action, whether it was motivated by bias or simply poor customer service, led directly to where we all are today. Uncomfortable laughter rippled through the room. Philip felt his face burning with embarrassment. But there was something in Maya's expression that wasn't vengeful. She seemed genuinely grateful for the chain of events that had brought her here. I believe people can change when given the right tools and incentives, she continued. That includes me. That includes all of you. And yes, that includes the front desk manager who didn't realize he was turning away his future boss. More laughter, a bit more relaxed this time. Some of the tension in the room began to ease. So let's begin this journey together, Maya concluded. By this time next year, the Chandler name will stand for a new kind of luxury. One that's defined by exceptional service for all, not exclusivity for a few. Those who join me in this vision will be part of something truly revolutionary. As applause filled the ballroom, Philip sat perfectly still, his mind racing. He had a decision to make: adapt to this new vision or find another job. Looking at Maya Johnson standing confidently on stage, outlining a future that actually made sense for the struggling hotel group, he began to think that perhaps change wasn't such a bad thing after all. The woman he had dismissed so easily 6 months ago was now his boss. And surprisingly, she was offering him a chance to be part of something bigger than himself. The question was whether he would take it. 1 year later, the lobby of the renamed Horizon Grand Hotel, formerly the Chandler flagship, hummed with activity. Gone was the stuffy, intimidating atmosphere of the past. In its place was a space that somehow managed to feel both luxurious and welcoming at the same time. Maya Johnson stood near the entrance, observing the scene with quiet satisfaction. The renovations had transformed not just the physical space, but the entire energy of the hotel. Modern art by diverse artists adorned the walls. The furniture was still elegant but arranged to create conversation areas rather than formal, isolated seating. A coffee bar had replaced the old-fashioned concierge desk, with guests and staff chatting easily as they discussed local attractions and restaurant recommendations. Quite a change from a year ago, said a voice beside her. Maya turned to see Philip Collins, now the hotel's director of guest experience. His transformation had been perhaps the most surprising outcome of the past year. Indeed it is, she agreed. The numbers reflect it too. Occupancy up 30%, guest satisfaction scores at an all-time high, and staff turnover down by more than half. Philip nodded, his expression thoughtful. I never would have believed it. Honestly, I thought all this inclusive luxury talk was just corporate spin. I didn't think it would actually work. And now? Maya asked, genuinely curious. Of all the staff members who had stayed through the transition, Philip's journey had been the most remarkable. After the initial shock of the staff retreat, he had approached Maya with an unexpected request. He wanted to be part of the change. Now I'm a convert, he admitted. I've seen guests return who I never thought would come back. I've watched our staff grow in ways I didn't think possible. And I've had to confront some uncomfortable truths about myself along the way. The day after Maya's revelation as the new owner, Philip had requested a private meeting. He had arrived nervous and defensive, clearly expecting to be fired. Instead, Maya had offered him a choice: participate fully in the transformation of the hotel, starting with intensive training in unconscious bias and modern customer service, or accept a generous severance package. To everyone's surprise, Including his own, Philip had chosen to stay. The training had been difficult, forcing him to confront patterns of behavior he'd developed over decades in the industry. There had been moments when he'd nearly quit, when the old ways seemed easier and the new approach too challenging. But something had kept him going. Perhaps the realization that the industry was changing whether he liked it or not. Or maybe simple curiosity about where Maya's vision might lead. Whatever the reason, he had persisted, gradually shifting from reluctant participant to genuine advocate. "The Jenkins family is checking in today," Philip said, referring to the young black family he had treated dismissively a year ago. "This is their third stay with us since the rebranding. And how are you feeling about that?" Maya asked. "Honestly, I'm looking forward to it. Their kids are great, and Mr. Jenkins always has good restaurant recommendations. They feel more like regular guests now, not—" He trailed off, looking embarrassed. "Not people who don't belong in a luxury hotel?" Maya finished for him. Philip nodded, having the grace to look ashamed. "I can't believe I ever thought that way. Or rather, I can believe it, which is the problem. I never questioned the assumptions I was working under." Maya checked her watch. "It's almost time for the press conference. Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Philip replied, straightening his tie. They walked together toward the hotel's newly renovated event space, where journalists from major publications and industry media had gathered. Today marked the official completion of the transformation of all 12 former Chandler properties into the Horizon Hospitality Group, and the launch of the company's Hospitality Training Institute. As they entered the room, Maya spotted her core team, Victor, Layla, Denise, and Theo, already seated in the front row. They had been instrumental in the success of this venture, which had exceeded even Maya's optimistic projections. What had begun as a response to discrimination had evolved into a profitable business model that was already influencing the entire industry. Howard, the former hotel manager who was now the company's chief operating officer, approached the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. It is my pleasure to introduce Maya Johnson, founder and CEO of Horizon Hospitality Group." Applause filled the room as Maya took her place at the podium. Camera flashes popped as photographers captured images for tomorrow's business sections. "Thank you all for coming," Maya began. "1 year ago, we embarked on an ambitious project to reimagine what luxury hospitality could be in the 21st century. Today, I'm proud to announce that all 12 of our properties have completed their transformations. Not just in terms of physical renovations, but more importantly, in culture, service approach, and community engagement." She clicked a remote, and the screens behind her displayed impressive statistics: revenue growth, guest satisfaction scores, positive social media mentions, industry awards. "But numbers only tell part of the story," Maya continued. "The real success lies in the experiences of our guests and the growth of our team members." She gestured to Philip, who joined her at the podium. "I'd like to introduce Philip Collins, our Director of Guest Experience, who has been on this journey from the very beginning, though perhaps not in the way either of us expected." There was a ripple of laughter from those who knew the story of how Maya and Philip had first met. Maya had shared that story in several interviews over the past year, not to embarrass Philip, but to illustrate how systemic change was possible when people were given the opportunity to grow. Philip stepped up to the microphone, looking both nervous and determined. "A year ago, I was the front desk manager who turned Ms. Johnson away from this very hotel. I'd like to say it was just a mistake with the reservation system, but the truth is more complicated. I had been trained in an approach to luxury that was fundamentally exclusive, one that made assumptions about who belonged in spaces like this based on appearance." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "When Ms. Johnson became the owner and introduced her vision for inclusive luxury, I was skeptical. I had spent 15 years in an industry that defined luxury by who it kept out, not by the quality of experience it provided to all guests. The transition wasn't easy for me, but the results speak for themselves." Philip gestured to the data on the screens. "Our most satisfied guests now come from backgrounds that the old Chandler might have subtly discouraged. Our staff is more diverse and more engaged than ever before, and perhaps most surprisingly, our highest spending repeat customers appreciate the more authentic, less stuffy atmosphere we've created." He turned to Maya with genuine respect in his eyes. "Ms. Johnson could have fired me that first day and no one would have blamed her. Instead, she offered me and many others the chance to be part of something better. That's not just good ethics, it's good business. As Philip returned to his seat, Maya continued with the second major announcement of the day. Today, we're also launching the Horizon Hospitality Institute, a training program designed to create pathways into the luxury hospitality industry for people from underrepresented backgrounds. The screen showed renderings of the Institute's campus, along with details of the scholarship program that would fund full tuition for promising students from disadvantaged communities. The Institute will not only train future hospitality professionals, but will also offer courses for existing industry workers who want to bring inclusive luxury principles to their current workplaces. Our goal is nothing less than transforming the entire industry. The press conference continued with questions from journalists, many of whom had been following the Horizon story with interest over the past year. The industry had initially been skeptical of Maya's approach, predicting that traditional luxury customers would reject the more inclusive model. Instead, the Horizon properties had attracted both longtime luxury travelers and a new demographic of successful professionals who had previously felt unwelcome in such spaces. As the event wound down, Maya found herself standing next to Philip again. "I have a question I've wanted to ask for a year now," he said quietly. "That night when I turned you away, did you already have plans to buy the hotel chain, or did that idea come later?" Maya smiled. "The idea came that very night. I was staying across the street at the Westfield, looking at this building and thinking about how many people must have had similar experiences here and at other luxury establishments. It made me realize there was both a moral imperative and a business opportunity to change things." Philip shook his head in amazement. "So if I had just given you a room that night, none of this would have happened," Maya finished. "Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best opportunities if you're willing to see them." As they looked around at the transformed hotel, now a beacon of what hospitality could be, when it truly welcomed everyone, both Maya and Philip felt the satisfaction of knowing they had created something important, a new standard that others would eventually have to follow. What had begun as a moment of discrimination had transformed not just one hotel or one company, but potentially an entire industry. And that was something neither of them had expected on that fateful night 1 year ago.